Dreaming is a process of communication that all human beings participate in. In our culture, dreaming is not well understood, but through the MAPS process, it is possible to really understand that dreaming will tell you exactly where a person needs to go in their life, and also what it is that they have to contribute along the way to the people that they play with and work with and learn with. In other words, if we become very good at listening to what a person's dream is, we become very good at supporting them to find their way in life. Many cultures have understood that dreaming is an essential part of being a human being. In those cultures, people often spend time sitting around and just talking to each other about what it is they would like to do in their lives. But in our culture, most dreaming is done through a process of fantasy. So, for example, for many years, I had the fantasy that I would love to be a truck driver. And my truck was a very, very high-tech truck, one of these very large, more than 18-wheeler gigs that has a bed in the back, so you don't have to stop on the road. And the purpose of my truck was to drive things from Toronto to California, and I get lots of money for doing this, and I'd work for 6 months of the year. And the rest of the year I would not have to work because I would make that much money. And what I would do with the rest of the year is I would rest and reflect and do other things. Anyway, the point is that this was my fantasy. And I used to be very embarrassed about this fantasy because obviously I'm not going to be a truck driver. But over the years I met a number of people who don't use words. And they began to teach me to really pay attention to what I was dreaming about. They taught me because they taught me that they could really communicate with other people even though they weren't using words. So I began to look for where is this communication coming from. So I finally got over my embarrassment about my fantasy, and I began to tell it to other people. Now I have a very strong support circle, and my support circle listened to my dream, and what we figured out very easily was that my dream had these seeds in it. The seeds are that my work is very important to me, that I want to get around, in fact I want to get around the whole continent as part of my work, that I want to be bringing something to people that's very important to the people that I'm bringing it to, and that I want to make enough money by doing my work that I can spend time at home resting, reflecting, and learning other things to bring to people. I now travel internationally talking to people about how we can support all of our diversities so that we have gifts to contribute to each other in society. My dream has come true, and my life is very satisfying to me. It's also a life of contribution to other people, and all the information that we needed was in that dream about my being a truck driver. So what this has to do with MAPS is that in the MAPS process, we listen to what the person's dream is. We listen with ears that don't say, oh, this is very unrealistic, this could never come true. No, we listen with ears that are listening for what are the themes of life that are very important to this person. What do these themes mean to that person? And as we disclose what those themes are, then we can ask everybody in the room to say, what are some ways that we can actually have these themes, these ideas, these seeds that are in the dream? What are some of the ways that we can have these seeds planted in our community right now and at work? How can we be at work with this dream right now? What are some ways that we can do that? This is where the other side of the dreaming comes to reality. because in the seeds of the dream are the ideas about what are the gifts that this person has to contribute to other people. The problem with most kinds of planning around people who are vulnerable, either because they've been labeled physically disabled or labeled mentally handicapped or whatever it is, or perhaps labeled behaviorally disordered or very ill. The problem with most kinds of plannings is that we focus on what's wrong with the person or with their family. And as we focus on what's wrong with them, what we end up is with ways that we try to fix them, but no way to move forward in that person's life. And very often you end up getting stuck. With maps, we're not looking at what's wrong with the person. What we're looking at is what is it that this person is trying to contribute to other people in his or her community. What are the gifts that this person has that the community needs, and that if the community has, it will grow richer and grow stronger. So the dream has in it the seeds of the person's gifts. In my dream and the truck driver's dream, my getting around and giving things to other people is a very important part of my gift. And in fulfilling that gift, I actually employ other people because, you see, I hired 5 other people to help me get around the country. And I use a van, so I'm paying repairs on those vans, and I'm buying the van, and I use airline tickets, so I'm keeping the airlines in business like thousands of other people. But those are part of my gifts. Those are part of my contribution to other people. So in the dream, what we will find is something about that person that will be a real contribution to other people. It's often something that's very, very simple, but it's a solid beginning. Like, many people will disclose that their gift is that they really like to make other people happy, for example. And if we use that gift, then we have somebody who's going to be a really great generator of relationship in the community. But whatever the gift is, we then have the opportunity to sit down together in the circle in the MAPS process and say, okay, how can we use these gifts, these particular gifts in the community?